Welcome back to the show. I'm so happy to see everybody. We have a really special guest today, someone that I met on the Dr. Lane Murray unit. We were incarcerated together. In fact, we were in medium custody together. For those of you that don't know, that's kind of like a mini jail inside of prison. Like when you get arrested inside of prison, you can end up in medium custody. You guys, please meet Cheyenne.
Hey guys.
Hi, Cheyenne. Thanks so much for
Hey.
taking the time to visit with us today. You have a brand new baby and you work, so I know your schedule is full, and we just really appreciate you.
It's so hectic right now, but it's worth every single hectic minute of it, just because it's that freedom, you know? It's nice. I love it.
Yes, it is. It's crazy busy out here. It's funny that you bring that up because I feel like when we were in prison, we had so much time on our hands. Like most of our day as an incarcerated woman in Texas is us waiting, like hurry up to wait. We were just
Yeah.
always waiting for chow to turn out, waiting in line here, waiting in line there, waiting for mail call. And now our
Waiting
days
by
are
our
just
cell
like,
doors to go to the
yeah,
shower. Like, come on.
yes, waiting for a shower. Very good point. So, Cheyenne, so we met in prison, and tell me kind of where you feel like your story starts.
You know, I would say my story started around the time, like before I went to prison, honestly. Like what ended me up there is bad decisions, of course, but I was also in a really toxic, abusive relationship, and we ended up going to prison, getting incarcerated, well, getting arrested when our baby was just 10 days old, you know, because he was dealing drugs, and they kicked our door in. And, I felt like, honestly, that was like my safe, like it saved me though. Being arrested and put in jail honestly saved my life because I probably want to be right here, right now, talking to you, be here with my little baby, being married now, in a happy, healthy relationship. Like everything kind of happens for a reason. But I mean, do I wish I would do I wish it had gone a different way? Yes, of course. But I had to sit down and learn, you know, why was I doing the things that I was doing? What do I need to do to better myself? And really it all stemmed from like I needed to love myself more, you know? And so I did a lot of thinking while I was in prison, and I did so much to help myself grow. Like I was in the first women's welding class for the state of Texas. Like I still have the little newspaper clipping for it and everything. Like that meant something to me. I got my high school diploma because I dropped out of school, when I was younger. I got that. Like I was able to actually do things while I was in there to help me while I was out here. And I went in when I was like 22, got out when I was like 28. I mean, most of my 20s gone. It's okay. I still got my 30s. So I felt like it started there and it's still progressing since I got out.
For sure, you're still working on things like all of us are, right? You've come such a long way. You said you got out of prison when you were 28, and here you are with a new family, which is just incredible. I want to kind of touch on something that you said. You said prison, in a way, going to prison, getting arrested saved your life. And can we dive into that a little bit? Because a lot of people that hear that might think that the institution itself saved your life. So I'm wondering if you mean, did prison offer you things? Did prison offer you a safe place to heal? Or did prison remove you from a dangerous situation?
It removed me from a dangerous situation. Like I would, if we hadn't been arrested, he probably would have ended up killing me because he was so deep in his addiction and he was so abusive mentally, emotionally, and physically. Something was gonna happen, you know. And so it's like just those officers. Yeah, I know like what was going on and the reason why I was arrested was wrong, but like I could thank them, you know, because if that hadn't have happened, like I said, I could have been dead, or I could have gone back to using drugs. You know, this was my time to actually see my self worth and like meditate and focus on me.
That's one of the things that a women's prison has to offer, generally speaking. And in my experience doing time in a Texas facility, is that it kind of gives us a safe place from substances. There's not a lot of illegal street substances in there. So for people that were really fighting that in the free world, prison did separate from that. I wonder, Cheyenne, what it would have looked like for you at that time, in your early 20s, 20, 21, before the crime was committed that led you to your incarceration, if the community had been able to support you in a different way, like if they had given you a safe place to separate from that wasn't necessarily a carceral setting. It's just something we could kind of think about. Like in my mind, when I picture my dream, like the dream, ultimate dream would maybe we move to a more restorative justice system, so that instead of like pumping money into these prisons, which we know are, yes, can save lives in a way, but they can also destroy lives in lots
Yeah,
of
we've
ways,
seen
right?
it. So many
Absolutely.
lives. Some people that never got to leave those walls, you know, because of like
Yeah.
negligence or just like people like just not giving a crap. You know, it was just
Can we talk about that a little bit? You and I both had sentences where we knew we weren't going to be spending our lives in prison, but we were on a maximum security unit with people that were quite literally never going home.
there was a kid. You know, I started off at Hilltop, right? And Hilltop's small little. They have the YOP program there, and you got a lot of kids there that are like 15, 16 years old, and they've got these. Some of them got murder charges, some of them have aggravated robbery, and some just have like drug charges. But it's like whenever I got put in seg, I was in seg for such a long time, waiting to go to Lake Murray, waiting to figure out where I was going, staring at a wall all day long because they have like a wall that's spaced between us and the other cells across the way, so we didn't get to see nobody. Being talked to like I was a piece of dirt by the warden, you know. And there was a girl that was put in the cell next to me, and I knew it was her just because of like her actions and I heard her name. She was a kid, and they were waiting for her to turn 18 so they could ship her off the unit because she acted out. And we ended up going to the same unit. We both ended up going to Lake Murray, and she died. She died in seg and ad seg there. You know, a kid, 18 years old, and all I heard like was officers not caring. You know, like they just thought it was funny. It's not funny. There's so many lives there. Like everybody's worth something there. Yeah, we've all made mistakes. We've all we've all done things that we regret, but that doesn't mean that we're not human. It's human nature to make mistakes, you know. So it's just and then the women that are in there for like say I could have ended up in the women's shoes that were in domestic violence situations that ended up lashing out back out at the person that was hurting them, and then they ended up getting life. That could have been me too, you know. Some of these women are in there for the rest of their lives because they finally fought back. I don't think that's fair either.
That's a great point, Cheyenne, about the domestic violence survivors that we were incarcerated with. Absolutely, that happens. A lot of women are in there behind finally taking back control of their life when they were in a situation that was dangerous and they were being emotionally, mentally, and physically abused. Something about women, and your thoughts on this. Some of those women end up getting long sentences because when they go into the court system, it looks like things were planned. Like it's not always
Premeditated, yeah.
right. But in my opinion, I just feel like in those cases, that women do have to premeditate because we can't just overpower our abuser. It does take a forethought. So what do you think about that?
No, it's facts. It's like it's something like when I was going through it, there was times where I would just think about it. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna think about it because you're hurting so much and you're it's like so much anger and you're in fear, you know? So it's like you get these thoughts, you're like, oh, like I wish I could, or like what if I did this? And it's just like, so yeah, that's premeditated. You're thinking about it. I mean, it's you can't stop that. Not in that kind of situation. You can't. Because it gets to that point, which I hate.
Some, yeah, something for sure I noticed about the women we were incarcerated with is that so many of them, the vast majority, and I don't mean 70% or 80%, I mean 90+% were victims far before they ever committed a crime that led them to prison. They were victim of all kinds of trauma, sexual abuse and assault, domestic violence, like you're talking about, substance misuse disorders, mental illnesses, and lots of foster care, lots of veterans, all kinds of trauma victims ended up. Was that kind of what you saw in there?
Yeah. You had everybody from every walk of life. Like it was crazy. Like I wasn't expecting that, you know, like whenever I first went to prison, I'm thinking like you've got all these hardened criminals like that are in here, but it's really just people that either wrong place, wrong time, really messed up situation, or just our decisions in life. It was crazy to me, and it's so many people in prison have the biggest heart. I've met some of the purest people in prison, and it's so crazy. Like, look at you.
Can we talk about how that we kind of formed relationships and bonds in prison, like play families? I think a lot of people are interested in knowing about that.
Well, it's like I got well, we used to have like our brothers or our sisters or like people that they would call mom, and the majority of the time, the ones that would be called mom are like the old schools that were in there. The ones that have been there for a while, the ones that can help you. If you're like green, like you don't really know like what to do or make sure you stay out of trouble. That's like your mom in there. Somebody who's like a mother figure. Then you got Star, Butler, who I used to call brother. Like it's it was a bond because that was our family in there. That was our family because we couldn't really be with our family. So that was our second family, people that we could eat and break bread with, you know, watch TV shows with, sit on the front bleacher or whatever, air fry some chicken balls or taquitos, whatever you wanted to make, and just hang out and talk about your day or play games like dominoes. Just that was that was our family. Still is, even outside of here.
You talked about spending a lot of time in segregation, especially while like you were waiting to pull chains, so you weren't there for any kind of disciplinary measure. Can you
Oh, I
explain? Because
was. I was
you were,
yeah,
when you pulled chain to
yeah,
Lane Murray, you were there. You want to
yeah.
talk
I
about
was.
that?
Well, I was put in seg at Hilltop for it was for three-way calling. They put me in seg, and I was in seg for about 45 days.
So segregation is solitary confinement, restrictive housing, administrative segregation, whatever kind of words you want to put on it, the hole, the shoe. Can you just, first of all, tell me again, you said you were in there for three-way calling. Can you explain what that is?
So what it is say somebody from the outside world that's on my call list. I call them, and they have somebody calling them on their phone to where they can merge the call, so where I could talk to the person who's not approved on my call list too, right? So, I mean, that's our three-way call. So in the rules for TDCJ, that is breaking the rules. That is like a major offense, right? And so that's what happened with me. And when they first took me to seg, like I didn't even know what was going on. I was still green. I was still new to prison. I didn't know or pay attention to anything that was not allowed, you know? And so they're not telling me anything about what's going on. I thought maybe it's because I got into it with my bunkie on the side of me, like, because she was getting all in my face. And so I thought it was because of that, like I thought maybe she'd gone to the warden or somebody and tried to say I did something I didn't do. So I was like, whoa, like, what is this about? They won't tell you nothing. They put me in the cell with nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have nothing for almost 48 hours. I was having to bathe with a little green bar of soap and sleep on like a bare mattress. Like I was horrified. I was scared, not knowing like what's going on. But yeah, it's just, they had so many rules that could just land you in seg that you're just like, it's kind of minor. Like three-way calling is something you would do out in the world too, like I'm gonna have a little three-way call with my friends. We're just gonna have like a little group chat, whatever. But I could understand where they were coming from because the person who I got my charges behind, it was because of him, right? That's why who was doing the three-way calling. And that was my bad. It's just because I was wanting to see my son. His mom had our son, and
Talked on my podcast last night about the differences in disciplinary action in men's prisons and versus women's prisons. Nobody in the men's prisons, they're not going to seg for making a three-way call. And for a very nonviolent, you weren't making a three-way call like conspiring to escape or conspiring to inflict harm on someone. You're making contact with your family. That was the purpose. And I just think 45 days in segregation is pretty harsh. There are going to be people watching this that don't believe it. I believe you because I know how they operate. And we see people get handcuffed and taken to seg for reasons less than that
all the time. Yeah. All the
Can you
time.
talk
Like,
about
go ahead.
what your cell looked like?
Oh man. It was just the bunk that was attached to the wall. It was just one bed, single bed, right? It was attached to the wall, and I just had like, it was double gated. So I could see everything out there. And there was like one door that they could shut. And the stainless steel toilet and sink combo. But I mean, it was just brick. Little, I don't even know how many square feet that thing was. Probably not even like 50 square feet. It's so small. And it
How
was just
many steps do you think it took you to walk from one end of the cell to the other?
full steps, like one foot in front of the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah,
Probably
just you
maybe like
walking.
maybe 10, maybe not even that. Like it just felt so small.
So if it was bars, it was kind of
Yeah,
open.
they had bars, but then they had another set of bars with a door. Like it was different, way different than Seg and Lay Murray.
Were you
But
able to
yeah,
communicate? Were you able to communicate then pretty easily with the people in cells around you?
mm-mm. No, everybody stayed quiet. I was in there majority of the time. Like there was a total of I think 8 cells in that Seg in general. And like I said, there was this big wall where they didn't want us communicating with each other at all. Like there was a big wall that blocked us straight down
From
where
seeing
we
one
couldn't see.
another, so you couldn't see
Mhm.
one another.
No,
I mean, when you're describing this just in my mind, I'm picturing a dog pound. Like
that's
it's
how it felt. That's how it felt. Like I just felt like a dog that was being punished in its cage. Like seriously. And then it didn't help when I had the warden at the time. She was coming by and just pretty much badgering me, like snarky, rude. It was, and I'm just scared, dude. Like the whole time I'm just scared, not knowing what's gonna happen to me. Where am I going? Like didn't know anything.
You talked about the
Just
warden coming, making kind of snide remarks to you, and that's something that I think happens in women's penitentiary is an emotional and mental abuse that people don't quite understand. And it's more than just like you might see, it's more than just aggression or talking down. It's quite deliberate remarks meant for harm. They're intended to hurt your spirit. Were there ever times other officers spoke to you that way where you felt
no, like it was so crazy. The other officers were nice to me. They were wondering why I was in there because when I was at that unit, I was working for maintenance. You know, I was on maintenance, I was plumber, and I was also doing like carpentry and stuff like that. So it's like they were really surprised because I didn't get in trouble. I really stayed out of trouble a lot while I was in prison, you know? And so they were just trying to figure out what's gonna happen to me. It was just mainly the warden. I don't know what it was. I think maybe she was just trying to she was a female warden and she just maybe she was trying to make a name for herself or say like, you know, prove like who she is and that she ain't gonna take no crap. I don't know. Like looking back at it, I'm like, I don't know. But it worked. You scared me.
Yeah.
Like I was scared.
It sounds personal, like, and I know it
Yeah.
wasn't personal. You didn't know her, but it just sounds like a personal attack. So you get moved to Lane Murray and you're in medium custody behind that offense.
Yeah.
And so how was your feel there, like with the staff in general? Because we definitely know we had some good, we definitely know that the
We
staff
knew
there,
the officers
right,
for sure. Yeah.
right.
I don't know. It took some getting used to. I think the roommate thing was what got me. You know, you had to make sure you had a good roommate for sure. Like don't I had pretty good roommates. I had two the whole time I was in there. But the officers slamming doors in faces, like denying them food or denying them to go to work. Like, you know, when we would get ready for post squad, you know, like if we're not by that door ready to go, then we're not going to work. And then that's a write up on us, you know? That wasn't fun. And I'd see that happen a lot. Or if they didn't like the inmate, they would just say, oh, they weren't by the door or oh, they did this. I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, what? It was, it still blows me away. Oh my God.
How did you feel like in those instances? Because when you're in cell block, you are completely dependent on an officer to open the door, just like you're saying for chow, for rec, if you have a visit, if they open the day room so you can use the phone. How did it feel when you would see officers not let somebody out or intentionally close the door on someone or pass their cell up? And you're seeing it, you know that person is doing what they're supposed to and at the door. How would that make you feel?
Upset, like, and confused. Like, they were, I felt like we were in high school. And it's like we were like the nerdy kids that got picked on, and the guards were like the popular bullies. You know, it's like they could do whatever they wanted. And it's like we couldn't really say nothing unless we wanted them to come after us. But I mean, I had a mouth a little bit. I would ask them, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Yeah, it just hurt me. It would hurt me seeing that because nobody deserves that. We already got sentenced. We already got punished. You know, we're just here to do our time. And so we can go home. Or at least so we can get comfortable, whatever the situation may be, you know?
And we definitely had officers that would be the opposite of that. They would make sure if you wanted to go out, and if you were happened to be, I don't know, remembered that you needed to grab some toilet paper to take with you to the day room and happened to be turned around when the officer passed your door, and you could be like, hey, no, I want out, and they would step back, so we had that. But what's funny about that environment is no matter what, though, those officers are going to ride together. So
Yeah.
it's not like another officer is going to come save you if you're left out for chow or you don't get out for work, even though the good office, and I hate to use the word like good and bad, but even though the officers that would not treat someone less than, they're probably feeling the same way you're feeling. Like when you see that, they're feeling a little ugly, they feel bad for the person, but they also don't ever step in and say anything. That was so
Yeah.
frustrating.
There was actually quite a few good officers. They're like the officers that everybody thought was like just a nasty person was actually really like the sweetest person. You know, once you actually got to have a moment to talk to them or you had this one-on-one with them, it really didn't matter. Like, because there were times when I worked like the back gate. Once I came up out of medium custody, I was working the back gate. So I got to work with some of the officers that I was like, well, maybe you're not so bad after all. Okay, you know, it's it's crazy. It's like they have to put on that front, and I get why. I get that because you don't know who to trust.
Did you feel like going into prison you had to put on a front, or were you able to relax and be like who Cheyenne is?
I was pretty much myself. I still had a lot of anger for a little bit, and it took a while for me to get over that. Like most of that stemmed from like hurt. I was just hurt. I was sad, and but once I started to kind of like get in like emotion there and just start to actually do what I needed to do there and just keep myself busy, I was able to kind of just like relax and be like, it's okay. It's like I guess because it was the fear of the unknown too. It's like what's gonna happen to me in general here. Like how long am I gonna be here? Like I didn't know how long I was gonna be in there. I ended up doing 6 years. But what they tell you in court is like, oh, you'll do 2 years and turn around. No, you won't. No, you won't. Like that's never the case. You're gonna do the time until the three people on a board say, okay, you can go. Like it's pretty much what it is.
Cheyenne, you said you were kind of able to do a lot of self reflection in there. And we know that like prisons are pretty harsh. There's a lot going on, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in everything that's happening in there and let that kind of consume your thoughts. How were you able to avoid from just getting sucked into that environment and look within?
I spent a lot of time in my bunk, like just by myself, really, kind of just like really, I would like I did cognitive classes. They actually helped me, the cognitive classes and stuff like that. But it was more of just like me just kind of thinking of everything in my life because it was a quiet. You didn't have all that chaos going around you from the outside world and everything that you had to deal with out there. So it was really your time to reflect. I don't know how I can describe this in a way that maybe it'll make more sense, but it was just less chaos in my mind, you know, because there was nobody I could talk to. So it was just me. And I never had that before. It always been some sort of thing I was dealing with outside of prison. So I was able to finally like just settle down, you know, and think about like the things that I'd done to hurt people too, like I was like, okay, so why did I do that? Like I would ask myself that, like in my head, I'm like, why did I do this? Or why did I let this happen? What could I have done differently? You know? And then taking the classes, the cognitive class too, like kind of put it more in perspective after that. Like I kept myself busy in there. Like I really did. I didn't want to go there and not get nothing from it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that no matter what the situation is, you can pull things to learn from and to utilize, even prison. So,
Yeah. Even prison, because like the people around you too, they teach you so much, like just in general, like with how people can really be and that there really are good people out there, and people that actually do care about you, like because it was like feeling like nobody really cared about me.
I'm wondering about your family. Did you have family support during your incarceration?
Um, I did, but I didn't. There was times where I couldn't go get commissary, My dad never set up the phone for me. Um, so that was rough. Like he did come to see me. The first time he ever came to see me though, actually was at my high school graduation when I got my high school diploma. And then after that, it was behind glass. And then for a couple other visits after that, it was behind glass. We're stuck, and it hurt him. He's like, Cheyenne, I don't know if I can keep coming to see you. He's like, and I'm like, Dad, like it hurt me because he's already seen me in the bad situation I was in before. And it's like, I'm just in a bad situation again in prison. Like he just like, what's going on? He didn't understand. And I'm like, no, I don't know how to explain it, Dad. You know, I was like, but I'm not the same person I used to be, because I did have anger issues. I had anger issues. I was an angry person. Come to find out, plus secondary emotion is because childhood trauma, it's because of issues I dealt with I didn't know how to release it, so I just turned it into anger, you know. But I had my dad, and I did get to see my son a couple times while I was there. You know, uh, that was rough, but like I did have a little bit of family support. It was better, like, because some people don't have no family, like none. There's women in there that their family members died. They've died since they've been in, or they can't support them no more, and they're like they just stop because it's just too much for them. It hurts them, you know. And I got to see that a lot while I was in there, and it hurt me. And it makes you grateful for the things that you do have, no matter how little it is, you know, because it's still something. It's more than what some other people have, you know.
And I think that's probably true for even out here as well. It's just so
Yeah,
much more concentrated in there. I remember looking around and even verbally expressing that to my family, like, don't worry, I'm okay. And it's not hard for me to look around and see how much we have. So just, everything's okay. Can we, I'm just curious about, we know the living conditions in Texas prisons are really poor, so poor that other countries have refused extradition into our state. And I'm just curious if you're like, did your dad know how bad it was inside? Did you express that to him?
I told him, but I don't think he fully grasped the concept of what I was talking about, like how bad it was, you know, like with especially the heat, like that heat. I'd never. I was like, how is this even humane? How is this even still allowed? Like me sleeping under my bunk because it's cooler on the concrete under my bunk than it is anywhere else in the dorm, you know, wearing soaking wet clothes to keep myself cool. Or like the things that would happen, you know, like you know, my crazy. So before I made parole, I my last job there at Lay Murray was I was the admin SSI, right? And my dad and his girlfriend came to visit me. And so they actually stripped my dad's girlfriend because the metal detector went off. And I was like, that they're not allowed to do that. That's no. She's like, what? I was like, no, they're not even allowed to do that to you. You guys are guests, you're visitors. They can't do that to you just because I guess like the metal detector went off on her. It was her underwire, so they wanted to check her. It scared her, it traumatized her. I was like, now you guys see though what we deal with on a daily basis. They could just pull us over to the side and strip us because they think we have something on us, or pat us down in the middle of the street. Like, it don't matter.
Yeah, dive into that a little bit, Cheyenne, about how at any moment you're talking about how any moment a woman in a Texas prison can get pulled over and strip searched. So can you just talk about exactly what that looks like if somebody's on their way to Chow or anywhere else?
Well, yeah, like you've got these officers that stand in the street, you know, and it's like as we're walking down our line, like we're walking down the line down the street, it's like if the officer is like, oh, I saw you pass something. When you didn't even pass nothing, it could have been like the person in front of you, the person behind you, but like they think it's you, like they can automatically take you, say, where is it? Take you to like the infirmary or take you somewhere else to strip you, like into like a little closet somewhere, like in the building that we were housed in for medium custody. They could just take us
J1.
over to
Yeah.
J1. Yeah, they could just take us over to J1 and be like, here, put her in this room, strip her. I saw her pass something. Like, it was just that easy. Like, they did that to our SSIs. Remember when we were
Yeah.
in medium custody?
Yeah. What is exactly, and not to get into any like raw
No,
details, but what does a strip search entail?
oh, fully naked. No details here, but just fully, completely birthday suit. You're gonna cough, squat, bend over again, cough, squat, spread them. It's lift up anything that you have, lift your feet up, everything, shake your hair out, mouth. They want you to put your whole hand in there. Like, yeah, like it's in depth. It's so degrading.
You worked on the field squad. And so can you talk about those strip searches coming in from work?
Oh, at the back gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got these dirty clothes on, especially you're coming back from like the hog dome or something. Uh, and they want to completely just do the same thing. And you're stepping on a dirty floor, like you're with like a little curtain that's over this window that you can still peek over the top of, really have no privacy. And you're completely naked. Same thing. You know, they're tapping out your shoes, shaking out your clothes. They're going to take out the insoles of your shoes if they want to. Like, it just depends on the officer who's actually doing the search. But
What about the strip searches in the strip shack with everybody? Like how
oh,
many people?
everybody squatting and coughing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just insane. All of us in this small space that coming in
Cramp.
filthy from work. And of course we smell. We've been working like you were saying, possibly shoveling pig droppings or even just sweating out in the field, hauling hay or picking corn, pulling weeds. But there's concentrated level. There's 25 or so of us in this room. And the
All of us
officers,
at one time.
yeah. I remember they'd be like, "Oh, it smells in here." Well, of course it does. Like,
Yeah. Like, what do you expect? We've been out there working all day while you're sitting in this AC and it's hot outside.
right.
Or even when it's freezing cold and it was raining. And so we're covered in mud. Like, it didn't matter. It's the weather. They had us working in it. They didn't care.
Oh, covered in mud. I remember pulling off muddy bra and panties. Like even they were full of mud. And I just thinking, oh my gosh. And then we'd go to chow right after.
No,
Like
we
just
go
like
straight to
that.
chow after being searched. Yeah. Going through the back door of the chow. Like, yeah. Going through the back, I guess that back ramp for the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
area.
Can you talk a little bit about and you referred to it as Toe Squad, so that's like the prison slang name for it, and it's
Field
called
squad.
Field Squad. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails exactly, what that looks like?
So, I mean, we're pretty much for landscapers in a sense, right? But not necessarily. We do all the dirty work. So we clean under the razor wires and we get stuck by it. You'd have one person with their grubbing hoe underneath it, holding it up while you're cleaning underneath, getting all the weeds out in between the rocks because they want it pristine. They don't want no weeds growing in between the rocks. Then we'd sometimes go up the mountain to cut down trees, uh, pick cabbage, broccoli. Um, see here, I remember going up to the hog dome was probably the worst experience of my life because I
We'll
remember
talk
going to
about
both
that.
of them. Both of them. Like they wanted us to literally because they wanted us to hoe through all the old uh, waste of these pigs that was in this hay, hoe it to where it was in the middle to where a tractor could come in and clear it out, right? But the one that really got me was when we went to the littler one down the hill before you start going up the hill. I remember we got there, you know, Lieutenant Warren. Um, so he's like, all right, y'all get out there. And we're like, so me, I was thinking I'm smart. You know, I thought it looked solid. No, it wasn't solid. I go out there and I think it was liquid pig feces. And he said, all right, everybody else get in there. And he wanted us to hoe this pig feces that was liquid. And it started raining on us. I mean, and that was probably, you talk about you had mud in your bra. I had the feces in between my toes and my boots and my panties and my bra, my socks, everywhere. Our clothes were soaked. And we had to go into the chow hall like that. That was nobody wanted to eat. Everybody was getting up and walking out as we're coming in because it was just that strong ammonia smell that was just stuck on us because of that, you know. That was we do the dirty work. That's what Field Squad was there. Was the dirty for sure.
The days where field squad would work out in the pig domes and mess with the pig droppings, the whole unit would be smelly. It would be bad.
And then I remember, we had to use the toilet to wash our clothes, wash everything, right? When we were in medium custody, that was just the way to do it. And I remember we washed our boots out. With me and my bunkie at the time, we washed our boots out, and we tied them outside our window so they could at least air dry. We didn't want them in the room. We wanted them to dry faster because we're gonna have to go to work in the morning, of course, bright and early. Um, and there was an officer that was walking around the back parts of the building to write up anybody who had their boots outside the window. I'm like, dude, you know that we were just out here literally in this, and you're gonna write us up because we don't want that nasty stuff in our room. Like, we're trying to be hygienic here. Like, it was the little things. Like, sometimes they would just nitpick. I'm like,
It
gosh,
was probably dangerous for us to be breathing that in,
I got
frankly.
sick from it. I couldn't go out one day after that. I was like so stuffed up, coughing up stuff. I couldn't breathe because it was so strong, and they didn't want you to wear anything on your face. But it's like, dude, I'm breathing in these fumes that could seriously hurt me, you know?
Yeah, it was so interesting that we weren't allowed to cover our faces. And you just made me think about being in the box trailer loading hay. So you're
Oh, I
breathing
remember
in
that.
all of that hay, and how you could just barely breathe that night when you got in. And if we had an officer that was going to just be a little more lenient, we could tie our handkerchief around. But a lot of the officers were not going to let us have our handkerchief over our nose and mouth to cover and get any kind of protection there. But then COVID happened and we all were wearing masks.
Cloth masks. They were made at the
Right.
garment factory, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
So you came home in the middle of COVID.
It was like COVID hit while I was at Safe P. I remember we're sitting there in class, and I was supposed to have a visitation that weekend, right? And I remember seeing them put something like a paper up on our glass window because like it was like a fishbowl. You could see, like the pit, like you could see the picket and you could see the other dorms, and stuff like that. And I remember going up and reading it saying that visitation was closed until further notice. And we're like, what? Like, what do you mean closed until further notice? And my dad's phone, mind you, is not set up, so I can't call him. He'd gotten a hotel, he'd already driven down and gotten a hotel room just to come up to the unit where I was at to find out that he couldn't see. And he lives out in West Texas. So like he's driving from West Texas to Burnett, where I was at, and he can't come see. And he told me that story, and I'm like, Dad, I'm sorry. Like, and I had no way. I had to write him. It takes a while for the mail to go out, to get sent, to receive, and so it's like I'm waiting for a response back. He doesn't do JPay. He does handwritten letters. Like it was like I'm just like freaking out, like Dad. But yeah, and then they tell us that something about COVID. Like we're still kind of green because we don't get to watch the news like that in there. We don't know what's going on. We're have to hear it from like our family members and also like officers who are telling us what's going on out there. That was scary because like we didn't know. And then anybody who came on new for the unit had to be quarantined, for like what was it, 14 days, like 2 weeks. So at that time when I was at Burnett, when I was at safety, I was a chaplain assistant. So like they were using some of our rooms at the chapel to quarantine these inmates, you know? It was just crazy.
So if they're quarantined, they're in a room, sometimes at the chapel, not necessarily a cell.
No, they were just put in a room, yeah, because I guess like the seg was full, so they couldn't just put them in there. They had to put them. There was too many of them, so they were like on a mat on the floor, and they would get their trays brought to them and eat in there. But it was just We had to keep our masks on. I remember they thought somebody in our dorm had it, and so like the whole dorm was on lockdown, and we were getting Johnny sacks for like I don't know how long until they figured out the girl didn't have COVID.
Oh my gosh.
But you're gonna leave us in there with the girl, or like you leave us all in there, like just because we don't know what this is. We don't. We're in prison. We don't know. It's like if somebody is gonna bring it in, it's gonna be one of the officers, you know, because they're going in and out all day long. But
Did you see
yeah,
people get sick?
I never saw it. No, I didn't see it until I got out here. You know, and we were still having to wear masks everywhere. When I was in the halfway house, we still had to wear masks. You know, so we were making our own masks in there and stuff like that. You know, just being a little creative. Um, I'd have to wear it at work because I was working at KFC while I was in the halfway house in Bryan, and I had a lady come through that said she had COVID, and I was like, why are you out right now? You have COVID, you know, like it was just a whole different experience being out here with it and seeing like how bad it was or hearing about how bad it was and actually seeing it for myself. I ended up getting COVID later on. It was like a year later after I got out.
You made parole. You got your answer was a safe P, which is like in a substance misuse program. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's in prison, an in prison program. You go to your program and then you go to the halfway house. Can we talk about the halfway house?
Oh, wow. I feel like these halfway houses are a setup for a lot of people who either they thought they were ready to change or they weren't, you know, like, and they weren't, or it's just like there was K2 there was people doing drugs there. It was a mess. People that were just leaving, you know, and I'm just like, why? Like, it's really not that bad here. Like, we're almost home. Like, we are literally like this close to being home. You know, like there was a girl there that I really tried to help so much. I was in safety with her and I was just like, come on, you've got a baby, you know, a little baby. Like you didn't have to go to prison. You got safety and probation, girl. You got this. You know, like I don't want you to end up where I was, you know? That was my biggest thing. Because some of these people that I met in safety, they were people that just went to court. That was their answer for them to get off on parole, you know? And I was like, are you gonna stop? You know, like, are you gonna, you have so much more to live for, so much more to in life to give. And this girl just left. I remember one day I came home from work and I had to ask one of the guards, we called them guards, like security people there. I said, what's going on? And they're like, oh, she left. She absconded. I was like, what? You know, it was so easy for people to do that.
Yeah, the rules are pretty strict there. And a lot of rules similar to prison, I noticed. I was in Bryan also at
Yeah,
BB Casa,
maybe Costa. Yeah.
but they don't lock you in. You can leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can leave whenever you want, but I mean, you're gonna get some pushback. Like if you try to walk out like with them like right there, they're probably gonna call the cops and they'll just arrest you, maybe. But like, because I wasn't there seeing it, I would just the after results is what I would see, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, they were really strict. I was like, this is really strict. Like you couldn't be in each other's doorways. You had to stay like in your room, or like we had the group session once a week with our counselor, our set counselor. So it's like I had to make sure I had that day off for that week just for my counselor. Pay the house. You had to pay the house fee, you know. I think I forgot how much that was. We had ombudsman there. I mean, it was different.
And then you leave the halfway house and you're home. So walk us through your journey home and how you got to where you are now with this beautiful family.
So, whenever I was getting ready to leave the halfway house, I actually went to stay with my son and his grandma, right? The woman who was taking care of my son while I was incarcerated and stuff like that. Yeah, I talked to my bosses and I was like, hey, do you think you could do me a favor? And I know that it's like a franchise or, like y'all all have different owners or whatever, how it works. But if you could just give me where I can at least put in a good word for me at this KFC down here. So I at least have a job when I get there so I can at least work my way and make sure I still am making money and I'm doing something and I can just find something better later on, It was just something for me to start off with. I mean, KFC only pays like 7.25 an hour, but it was better than what I was making nothing while I was while I was in prison. So I was grateful for whatever. Like prison literally makes you so grateful for every little thing that you have. Like nothing really can phase me to an extent. I'm just like, oh, like I don't stress out that hard. I really don't. Like I'm really calm about situations. But yeah, so like I stayed there for a little bit. Um, and then I found a job as a server at a restaurant that I was making really good money at. And then it just like COVID started striking again, and like that was what was really killing businesses was COVID still when I got out. So I was just trying to find something where I could make a decent amount of money, so where I could get up on my feet more. I went from staying with my son's grandma and my son to living with a roommate with my best friend while I was trying to really fight for my son. You know, I met my husband actually on Facebook, which was crazy. He lived in Florida originally, and then he moved down here about 2 years ago, and we just got married back in February.
Yeah, and you have this beautiful baby.
So one thing though that they did not prepare me for when I got out of the halfway house was like all the counseling classes that I had to take. You know, it's like your aftercare. You know, like you had to do that for I think it was like 6 months after you got out. You had to do aftercare, pay them. So it's like all the money I received, was going towards that. Plus, like I had my own phone. What? I was so excited about that. I paid my own phone bill. I was like, yeah, look at me, pay my stuff. That was nice. That felt good. And then, also paying parole. Um, and then also going to NAAA meetings. So, like I said, whenever we first were talking earlier, it's like I was actually able to just do an AAA over the phone, like on Zoom, and just sign off on my paperwork myself is what my PO had told me I could do because we weren't having in-person meetings. They weren't doing them at the time still. And then my counselor, yeah, that was still over the Zoom too. So I could be at home. I didn't have a ride most of the time. Like it
Yeah,
was
that's
hard.
something a lot of people don't think about. Get out of prison and you don't have any money, you don't have a vehicle, but your parole stipulations require all of this movement for you to be at places and pay fees. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to get quick and make things happen. If you don't live where there's public transportation, you're asking everybody for a ride.
Yeah. And then, I had to get my license again, because my license expired while I was incarcerated. And so I had to take my driver's test again, take all that stuff and actually drive. And I think I failed the first one. I failed the first driver's test because I was in this big old Ford F-150 trying to take this driver's test, thinking I could do it. No, I was like, what was it? It was the parallel parking. I was like, that was really hard. I was like, I'm taking a smaller vehicle. I'm not doing this because it was my son's grandpa who could let me use his truck. He drove me there, you know. Um, but yeah, that was a whole new experience. I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm a teenager again, having to get my license all over again. You have to pay for that too. No, God, that's another thing. It's like, okay, so I didn't have no credit, right? I never learned anything about financial stuff, like how to take care of things or how to do any of that stuff until after I got out. Now, like I've got my very first apartment, you know, car. I mean, like building my credit up. I'm doing things that, like as an adult. But I didn't get a chance to do that before, you know? And I like that, but I'm tired sometimes. I'm really tired. Like I can I stop adulting just for like one day?
Right.
But now I really can't because I got a baby. So I really can't
Right.
mommy mode all day long.
Cheyenne, you've shared so much of your experiences with us, and I just can't thank you enough for sharing what you've shared with us so far. I want to first of all give you a space if there's anything that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned, and then also lately I've been getting kind of an influx of questions about young lady saying, I have charges pending. I'm scared. I don't know if I should take probation or take my time. What is your advice for young ladies looking at time? Like, what is your advice to them, how they
My
should move
advice,
forward going into the system?
probation is a setup. Probation is a setup for failure, honestly. I feel like you should just do your time so that way you can get it over with. Because if not, then your fees are going to be higher with probation than they are with parole. Honestly, like I pay $18 a month, I think it is. I mean, like the most expensive thing that I had to pay for was my counseling in the halfway house, you know? But I mean, like depending on what the thing is, like what the charges are, I would just do your time. That's your safest and best bet, honestly.
And then advice for someone going into the system, how to handle themselves or handle that new environment.
Keep their head up. It's only temporary. Be strong. You've got this. It's really not as, I mean, it's bad. It's rough in there. And mentally, it's a mental toll, but you'll come out stronger. You really will. And you got this. Like, just keep your head up. Don't let things get to you. Just do what you got to do to get out of there. Don't get involved in the drama. Don't get involved in the BS in there, honestly.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Great advice. Any final thoughts for us, Cheyenne?
Just everybody keep doing what you're doing out here, honestly. My final thoughts is like, I'm so proud of everybody. I love seeing the growth and the success with everybody that we've been in there with, you know? I like it just makes me so happy. Like to know these women. Like I'm like, bro, I know her. I can say like, hey, I know her. You know, and I legit know this person, you know, it's not like it's like, oh well, like I know her, yeah, no, I know her. Like I was in there with her. We were in the trenches together and look at this because it's possible, you know? That doesn't define us at all. It makes us stronger.
I love that, Cheyenne. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.